What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Game Show Global Cup. It's going to be Game 2 between Kaipi and 4Clovers. 4Clovers have already won a game, so 1 point for them. Kaipi looking for one of their own. They wanted the IO Tiny combo, but clearly that's not going to be happening as 4Clovers throw a wrench in that by grabbing the Tiny with Winter Wyvern. But before we get into the draft, I'm Mikelorus, going to be joined by mrpdota for these games. Definitely an interesting way to start off Game 2, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I guess putting them into a corner did Kaipi with that opening IO pickup. Tiny's still a strong hero. Generally, we'll see that first item blink come out for him not being accompanied by the Wisp. But yeah, still kind of wiping off the tears from Game 1 if you're a Kaipi fan. And really was a very unfortunate ending to that one. But valiant game from both sides and really them showcasing their skills. Both of these teams certainly at the higher echelon of at least tier 2 teams right now. So really good matchup. See if they can save your rares in this one with the early IO pickup. Shadow Fiend for cancel is a very much so a comfort hero, as well. So looking good for both sides kind of the opening thus far. Wyvern already instant counter to the IO +1 though.
And usually, IO's partners, if it's not going to be Tiny, not going to be insta-killed should you curse the IO, but it's good enough for 4Clovers. But grabbing the Tiny with no IO, definitely not something we see all the time. Usually indirect response, just like the first pick IO from the Kaipi side. I've seen him run mid lane solo, and depending on the matchup, you may or may not want to do that. Up against Shadow Fiend, probably not. But I've also seen teams pick up like heroes like a Lich to join with that Tiny. Just make that a full dual lane. Again, maybe not as necessarily powerful as IO Tiny, since you will run out of mana eventually. Being the well, just naturally, Tiny just isn't very smart. But yeah, they do have the option of running those types of dual lanes. Alternatively, putting the Tiny in the safe lane, probably one of the more uncommon things that we see from Tinies, but still is a viable way to go if you have some proper setup. You can kill off pretty much anyone if you get close enough for an Avalanche Toss combo and he has some help from your supports, even someone as big as a Darkseer.
Indeed. Yeah, I'm not sure how much of a fan of the dual lane I am, but it feels like Tiny is a pretty lackluster laner by his lonesome. So certainly he'll be over in that safe lane, if not in a mid lane dual lane scenario. And up against the Shadow Fiend, mid lane dual lane, not the most appealing, especially being that the IO will be behind him to keep him regened up in terms of being able to spam out those shadow raises, be able to assert themselves in terms of rune control, be able to stack up some camps for him to recover economically. So AA ban from Kaipi comes out, Undying ban. They're not going to pick that one up for themselves, and both heroes do well against heroes in close proximity from the relocate and the tether. One other hero doing well with those two heroes close by one another is that Ember Spirit, and that's going to slip through to 4CL here, presumably for Pycat, but could be over in that safe lane for LMAO.
Just the hero, usually mid lane, although sometimes safe lane. I mean, I'll actually swap that. But either way, Ember Spirit can go in either of those lanes and really is probably going to be juggling with the Tiny as far as the hero that's going to be going towards mid or going towards safe. Breaks my heart to see Chaos Knight being banned out. It seems like at this point Kaipi might just have an IO for IO's sake. As you said, stacking up for the Shadow Fiend, it has value in and of itself. But 4Clovers are pretty hard to nail down right now. They have a lot of burst, a lot of ganking power. Tiny, especially without an IO partner, is going to be going for Blink Dagger 9 times out of 10. So he has the mobility. Ember Spirit has the mobility. 4Clovers have good mid-game gankers, but these heroes, Ember Spirit and Tiny, also scale really well into the late game. So these are just difficult heroes to peg down, and for Kaipi, they're going to grab a Lion to try to peg down this Ember Spirit. But as good as Lion is at aggressively killing off the Ember Spirit's also really good at just going ahead and killing off the Lion.
Yeah, certainly so. I'm just trying to think of what support works really well for 4CNL here. I feel like they need a little bit more aggression, at least in lane. A buff up would be nice. I'm looking at the Ogre Magi right now for both the Tiny and even the Ember Spirit. The Bloodlust, I mean, not considered to be great on Ember, but the extra movement speed actually helps out quite a bit. So feeling like the Tiny with the Aghanims plus a Bloodlust could be nice. Ogre gives them a little bit of that poke early on. Arctic Burn plus Ignite is actually pretty potent in lane, and IO certainly weakens your lanes a little bit in terms of the supports. Lion, you touch upon it all the time, is one of those heroes that in the first couple levels is pretty much dead weight until he picks up at least kind of a value point in each skill. So 4CNL gonna definitely go for the aggression here. Think it's a 4-position SB, could of course be in that 3, but generally both these teams like to run it in a support role. We'll see what it ends up being, but for now, doing kind of what the Ogre Magi is intending to do early on. Definitely not a hero you want to trade with in the Spirit Breaker.
Ooh, Necrophos now the pick from Kaipi. I just coincidentally have not seen many Necrophos picks. Like, I think this might just be like the first one in this patch for me from a casting chair. But yeah, he is picked up a little bit more occasionally. He does have a pretty decent combination with the IO, but for Clovers, they have a lot of burst damage and a lot of CC. So, Necrophos, he will end up being tanky by the end of the game. But up against the Tiny, like, will never really be truly safe. Ember Spirit, Spirit Breaker, get on top of Necrophos very quickly. And Ember Spirit, if he has the Flame Guard up, Necrophos not going to be doing a ton of damage here. So, I mean, as powerful as this hero is, I just feel like this might not be the game for him.
Always got to smile a little bit when the Legion Commander comes out against any Bone 7 squad. Legion Commander ban, I should say. So, definitely combos up nicely with the IO. Spamming Overwhelming Odds is pretty potent, at least through the first 7 levels or so of the game. And the lockdown is very nice against the Ember Spirit and the Wyvern for that matter. So don't mind that LC ban there. Huskar ban is an interesting one as well. Yeah, Necrophos I've really only seen run by Secret with the IO as well. 2 strength heroes in the SB and the Tiny, though. Makes it a pretty appealing pickup here. Still needing an offlaner is Kaipi at this point. Wouldn't mind to see, I feel like I say this all the time, but I wouldn't mind to see the Beastmaster up against the Ember Spirit. The Primal Roar is really nice. It's good against the Spirit Breaker charging in as well. So wouldn't mind a pickup like that. Clockwork still in the pool as well, and probably a safer pickup with kind of that same sort of single target disable available at his disposal.
Yeah, Clockwork I think is actually maybe a little bit better. 4 Clovers are fairly melee heavy right now, and Necrophos with Clock just needs some barrier. Like, if it's not Shaker, then, well, I mean, it has to be Clockwork, right? You need to get this hero in a safe distance. For 4 Clovers, though, they're going to grab a Weaver. So this is going to be not a 3-position Spirit Breaker. He's going to be playing that lighter roaming support role, or supportee role. Weaver, that's an interesting pickup for sure. Again, it is a hero that may make Necrophos struggle a little bit. But that being said, Lion is going to be at a premium right now. His positioning is going to be important, yet so difficult, because he needs to be able to get these disables on Ember, Spirit Breaker, and Weaver. If they have a chance of killing these heroes off, you just like spike them. That's good enough, because Necrophos can do the damage afterwards. Shadowfeet can do the damage afterwards. That being said, Lion on the defensive versus any of these heroes really doesn't stand a chance in hell. So this Weaver pick, I think, is actually pretty decent here from 4 Clovers.
I mean, Lincoln Sphere is good in this game thus far, so certainly Weaver is warranted in that sense. Still feel like this hero, I mean, one of my favorite heroes to play, but I just still feel like he's kind of trash can, and he really does not get online early enough for my liking, especially up against heroes like Shadow Fiend, who are kind of relevant throughout the entire game. I mean, if you get hit by a raise combo as a Weaver, you better have your hand on that R button, because you are going to drop quickly. So we'll see how it ends up working out. I mean, it's probably still going to be Tiny over towards that safe lane. So maybe dual offlane Spirit Breaker Weaver. We'll see how that works out. Either way, Weaver is probably not going to have a great time early on. They could always put the Tiny in an offlane role, but you really want to get the levels up for that Avalanche Toss combo early. So doubt that is going to be the case. But we'll see what the laning configuration is from 4CNL. Certainly a niche pick, and some of the picks we expected to come out from this team. Yeah, 4th position Spirit Breaker, as I mentioned earlier, played by both sides. So there's a hero that certainly deals with Weaver pretty well for Kaipi.
You can time-lapse away the amplified damage.
Yep.
That being said, you won't be able to Kuchi it out, and Slardar already is a really good chaser. Maybe not able to keep up with Weaver all the time, but with Sprint and IO, if necessary, he will have a small burst of speed there with the Blink Dagger in addition to even catch up to the Weaver. So suddenly Shikuchi, not even a great escape tool, at least in that regard. They have a little bit minus armor with the Shadow Fiend and Slardar, no real huge payoff from it afterwards. Necrophos does no physical damage, nor does Lion or the IO. Yeah. But this Lardar pick, I mean, the amplified damage versus the likes of Ember Spirit, Weaver, Tiny, like all naturally heroes that are susceptible to that physical damage, will mean that Shadow Fiend is going to be that much more important for Kaipi to keep alive. I mean, Cancel, much like that Necrophos as we described earlier, is a hero that is going to be doing a lot of damage if you can keep him far enough away from the enemies so that he's not always under a ton of pressure. But it seemed like that is really going to be difficult right now. Kaipi's draft kind of seems like they just got some more of these oddball heroes, Slardar and Necrophos, even though they are fairly powerful. They are going to be on the defensive more often than really they'll be comfortable being on the defensive in this game.
Yeah, feels like it might be an aggressive tri lane coming out from 4CNL. Maybe they give LMAO solo safe lane privileges, but currently Tiny walking down towards that safe lane, picked up by Bambo though, so maybe just an issue of comfort, player hero combinations. So Bambo going to be picking that up. 4CNL on the Radiant side, he's going to be playing the Tiny over towards that mid lane. Pycat going to be on Sheen, the Ember Spirit. That's going to leave Nikwa on his Winter Wyvern, and over towards that off lane. EGM picking up the 4-position Spirit Breaker alongside LMAO on that offlane Weaver.
And for Kaipi, Bone 7, he's going to head down towards the bottom lane right now as the Slaughter with Come With Me's Io. Jawa may or may not be joining them for a short time on Necrophos. Got canceled on the mid SF. And where did the Lion go? He already teleported up to the top lane. He's going to place an Observer, and well, that may keep this safe lane a little bit safer, but these lanes are definitely very interesting, at least from coming out from 4 Clovers. I feel like every single time I see 4 Clovers, Bambo is always on a melee offlane hero, and usually it's going to be a Shaker, like Sand King, whatever. It's pretty par for the course, but Tiny in the solo lane, well, first of all, has a really good time getting the experience. Like, he loves those levels, getting up to that 240 max mana mark so he can land that Avalanche Toss combo without, trying to bottle in between. Really convenient for him. That being said, he's going to go up against a Slardar, and that in of itself is not something that the Tiny wants to see. He has base damage enough to last hit the creeps, but no armor versus a Slardar who not only has, not bad damage, but also has a physical nuke in the Slithering Crush, makes this lane suddenly really bad for the Tiny.
Yeah, physical damage from the Bash as well, so 1v1 matchup looks good there, especially if the IO is there early on. And it is kind of the result of picking up this Weaver. I mean, you cannot leave this hero alone early on. He will get pretty much dumpstered in lane if he's against anything but a 1v1 matchup. So we'll see how that pick ends up working out for them. But for now, it feels like they are going to leave Bambo somewhat stranded in this safe lane.
Well, good luck to Bambo. I mean, he made some plays happen in the Shaker in the last game, so even after having a potentially really rough lane, you would expect these flashy plays from Bambo, but this is just not going to be a fun lane, and this is also going to mitigate the weakness of an IO, especially an IO in an offensive dual lane. We see this combo very frequently joined with a Legion Commander, since she can just charge right in, start right-clicking. Slaughter can do it maybe slightly worse, but still the essence is there. You just tether him with the movement speed, and you have Crush, you have right clicks. Really, what more do you need? So it's definitely going to be an interesting lane down towards bottom. Mid lane, well, it should just be cancel Shadow Fiend, and that matchup is looking to go maybe towards this Weaver. I mean, the Ember Spirit has a mid lane loadout right now, and it's played by Pycat, but I don't know, it kind of seems like he's thinking about going up towards top lane, possibly.
Would you mind that decision? I'm not sure that I would mind it too much. I mean, the raises are certainly a scary tool available to cancel against LMAO, but he's got a lot of regen in that mid lane, so, and a little bit of range available to him as well. Yeah, it looks like it'll be the more standard choice, at least for now, and perhaps he was just looking to scout things out with his Shikuchi there, but yeah, bot lane, it looks like Bambo already taken a little bit of punishment from Bone 7 here, and is in range for a crush, but for now, Bone 7 will hold on to it.
Boots of Speed on the Tiny, nice to have, but not going to keep him completely safe versus the Sprint of the Slaughter. First of all, add a tether on top of that, not even needed. In fact, it seems like they have a read that it's just the Tiny by himself, so they're going to leave the Slaughter by himself. Again, it's a good matchup there. Bone 7 and Bambo again. Going to get into a fist fight. Crush is going to do so much damage. Tiny has a toss. He's going to man fight because he has backup coming in. Here comes the charge. It's going to be landing on Bone 7. Burn is there as well. He has another Crush, however, so we will be able to do some serious damage to the Tiny right now. Crush only landing onto EGM. However, Bone 7 is going to get beaten down. He will fall to Nikwa. Last click in from the Winter Wyvern, and they thought the Slaughter was up against the Tiny. And I guess they weren't exactly wrong, but Tiny with suddenly 2 other heroes, making it so the Slaughter overcommitted.
Yeah, and EGM kind of baiting him there, manning up, knowing his support was inbound. And Bone 7 feeling pretty safe, but he does end up falling there. So nicely played by Bambo, and that'll help him out in this lane. And even if they bring the IO here after down to the Dire off lane, it should bode pretty well for him. So early nice pickup, and yeah, we mentioned it, we don't want to completely leave this Tiny alone, and we'll see how the Weaver fares now up in this top lane. He's already been trading pretty effectively with Bisa on that Necrophos, but the Dire do have an Observer ward here, so should be able to scout out any rotations in.
Annihilate the Tiny, just walk in, crush, couple of right clicks, and Tiny, having gone for boots, doesn't have something like a Ring of Protection, which definitely would have made the difference there. At least he probably would have gotten a little bit more distance away before he died. So this is still a pretty aggressive, powerful aggressive lane here from Kaipi, even though they did already lose first blood. They can still apply this pressure towards really anyone here, and it will get a little bit weaker now that the Winter Wyvern has grabbed that level 2, and they're actually going to swap it up completely. They want Bambo in that off lane, and now Bone 7, he's going to have to deal with a Weaver instead. Definitely a hero that he, can kill off should he have the true sight, and I don't really think they're going to invest into that, but yeah, the Weaver should have a much better time than the Tiny. That being said, the Tiny's going to have a probably equally bad time on this top lane, going up against 2 pokers, going up against the Necrophos, who's already level 3. Not good times for Tiny.
Yeah, and Heartstopper Aura pretty effective against him as well, being a hero with a little bit more base HP. So, yeah, I don't know that really they needed to swap lanes there, but we'll see how it ends up working out. It feels like he still would have done well bot lane once the Cold Embrace came out, but either way, Charge going to be queued up towards cancel mid lane. Flame Guard ticking out there from Pycat. With the Wisp inbound, it feels like they'll be just fine. The Lion even rotating in, and now EGM in a bit of trouble. He's going to be caught out with that Impale. Ray's going to whiff, though. And uphill will be just fine.
You really don't want to be super aggressive as a Lion who's level 2. You want level 3 at least. Over towards bottom lane, Bone 7 in the meantime, trading hits evenly with Nico and LMAO. Poor man's shield in the Slardar, something we don't see all the time, but if you're up against the dual range lane, I don't think that's a really terrible item. Usually it's just going to be Stout Shield into Vanguard, but hey, you need the survivability now, so you might as well get some survivability. Plus, the 6/6 agility, the value there. But still, now without the IO, I mean, this is really a weird lane, I think, for Come With Me, who, kind of wants to be able to save cancel should he get charged, as he is being in the mid lane, but kind of also needs to be with the Slardar if he's going to have a good time down in the bottom lane. He's also stacking, so this IO is kind of needed everywhere. They're going to land the charge onto Cancel. Pycat closing in for the chains. Cancel needs help from Come With Me, but he doesn't have any bottle charges, so Cancel's left to dry. He's going to try to salve up, I think, but that was immediately canceled. EGM's going to cut him off with the charge available. Cancel, best case scenario, deny himself to the Ancients. No, he's going to eat another Tango and then run. That's not going to happen, dude. Here comes EGM, bashing him down, even getting a last hit bash because that was necessary. Shadowfiend is going to fall, and so yeah, Come With Me. An IO with no bottle charges is a fairly bad hero.
Yeah, and he doesn't even opt to jump in there. Probably felt like he would have died for it as well. And don't hate the decision, but yeah, a little odd to see Cancel run up the opposite way. But yeah, either way, you always get the bashes when you don't need them. EGM's rotations have been pretty fruitful thus far, and is already level 3. Bone 7 going to try and find this rune bot lane at the 4-minute mark, but Nico going to be there on time to steal it from him. And the charge coming through as well. Does have the Splinter Blast, does have the Arctic Burn available, but Wisp mid lane. Probably going to keep EGM at bay. Should see him cancel this in just a moment. And yeah, does end up doing so on the high ground. How's the Tiny doing in the meantime? Seems like he has been pretty starved out. 7 last hits. They're going to give him the mid lane for now, being that Cancel has had his power stymied a little bit with him dropping just a moment ago.
Yeah, this Tiny is, I mean, I guess similar to Shaker in the regard that even being a low level can contribute to Shadowfiend's kills, but Tiny really doesn't want to be at that state of the game, so he really does need to get some experience. And level 2 toss, I mean, it's fine if you have someone like a Centaur on your team or a Slardar, but even tossing in a Spirit Breaker, that's not super impressive. This Necrophos is getting absolute free farm up in this top lane. Now it's a deal with this Tiny and Spirit Breaker both, but even though they may be able to charge into the Necrophos, avalanche him, toss him, I don't really think that's going to be enough damage to easily get that kill, not without at least taking a lot of damage themselves. They may even not get the kill and die if they try to go for that. So 2 heroes up in this top lane seems like 2 heroes too many for 4 Clovers.
What are your thoughts on Bottle Weaver? LMAO going to pick that up towards the bottom lane. I feel like, yeah, if you're against a tri-lane, maybe you need the sustain and you can get rune control as a Weaver, but just up against a 1v1 Slardar, I feel like maybe you just go Aquila and said LMAO, speaking of which, is going to have to time lapse out bottom. But yeah, Bottle Weaver early on, a little curious for me.
Well, I'll talk about that after this charge over in mid. Cancel is going to get hit with the charge. This time the IO does have bottle charges. 2 heroes coming in from the Kaipi side. Pycat is going to jump away from the Crush from Bone 7. Crush from the high ground will not connect. Pycat, one more Spirit needs to land. Not quite going to do it. Everyone is going to live, and everyone is going to be fine. But that being said, did force Kaipi to make a couple of TP rotations in. The charge not going to stop up towards top lane. Jawa is going to get charged down by EGM. I think he needs a bash here to get him in range. The avalanche toss. Avalanche toss is going to land, and they get a bash in midair, but Jawa's still alive. One more hit, not going to do it. He gets sticked up by Come With Me. Now the Scythe is going to put down EGM for 45 seconds. The Spirits should not kill out the Tiny, although it's going to be a little bit close to the Heartstopper aura. Oh no, he has 5 stick charges. Looks like he will live, although Boofney coming from the side. They really want that Tiny, but they're just not going to get him. That was a little bit too deep there for Clovers, and Jawa getting a kill. That's nice for him, obviously, but a Scythe kill means that EGM is not going to be charging for another 30 seconds now. That's a big one for the Kaipi side, but yeah, going back to this Bottle and Weaver, I feel like it's a fine item to get, even in like a kind of weird matchup. Oh no, I can't talk about that. Cancel's getting dove again over in this mid lane. Definitely gonna fall because there's no Io here this time, but he's gonna try to go for Pycat, who's gonna get embraced, but now is in a little bit of trouble. Needs the aggro to be drawn off by one of his allies, and it looks like it will be drawn off in the end. Sexy Bambo gonna help out a little bit there, but yeah, Shadow Fiend, no Io, definitely a very easy kill. But back to this Weaver now. We already mentioned how Lincoln Sphere is actually a pretty good item in this game, and if you're going to go for Lincolns, you get the mana regen, you get the health regen. You're not taking that much chip damage. I don't think you need the bottle because you're getting good experience.
Yeah, feel the same way, but LMAO going to be able to trade a little bit more effectively, perhaps, with Bone 7 in lane. Does have the Tranquils up. Interesting build on the Slardar for now, so trying to get up those levels. The amp damage, of course, going to be very helpful in this matchup. Both against the Weaver and some of these low armor targets like the Tiny and the Ember Spirit. So could be a pretty good one for Bone 7 to get up his levels here. And it is going to eclipse that level 6 mark very soon. Cancel going to be able to farm up some stacks here in the jungle. I believe that's a quad stack there. Maybe, yeah, quad stack. He should be able to farm that up relatively easily. And that's going to help him out after not having the best mid lane. Didn't go quite swimmingly for him, but still feels like Kaipi have a good advantage here. Considering the state of the Tiny at this point.
Well, EGM in this game is a lot more active than in last, so still for Clovers, they have the ability to get kills out of nowhere, even if they are, in theory, pretty far behind. Come With Me is going to get charged. He's going to jump towards Cancel, but that's not going to stop, because that just means that Cancel's at low HP. Another jump forward for Pycat, chains to land onto the Shadow Fiend, and they're going to get the stun up onto Come With Me as well. EGM going to split the focus as Cancel going to be worked down by Pycat and Nikwa both. Slows are there, but Shadow Fiend's still alive. Dive out from Come With Me. He's going to get dropped by the Splinter Blast, but Nikwa's similarly going to drop to Cancel's raises, as EGM is now overcommitted. He needs a charge out right now. I don't think there's anywhere he can actually charge to. He needs to leave, but it's too late. He's going to get hit with a crush. That's going to be another Scythe kill for Necrophos, again on the Spirit Breaker, and again taking him down for 48 seconds. That extra respawn timer is so brutal, just being 8 minutes in the game, because this Spirit Breaker needs to be active around the map. He needs to be getting experience from kills, from leeching a little bit over in the lanes. But Kaipi, they lose the IO, not a big deal because they keep Cancel alive.
It feels like that was like a level 4 overcharge. I feel perhaps that the real detriment to the damage output from 4CNL's side was that Pycat jumped twice and then maybe didn't have enough mana for Flame Guard on top of the chains. It feels like he was hitting like nothing onto Cancel there, and the Wyvern even trying to chase him down and bring him down walks over towards the lane mates of Kaipi there and gets brought down. So yeah, overall, looked like a great situation for 4CNL. They scout the Wisp, and then they get vision of a very low HP Shadow Fiend, but Pycat unfortunately shoots his Remnant a little bit too short to get the chains off immediately and has to expend another 150 mana for that second activation of the Remnant.
This game is still very, very close, but Pycat, he's going to fall behind eventually, behind the Shadow Fiend, who's already cleared off some stacks and is going to stay a little bit longer in the jungle. Bone 7, I mean, he has his amplified damage, but really can't do that much to the Weaver, even though he may have that tracking tool. Killing him off, not going to happen. So both sides probably still on the gain experience plan for right now, especially this Tiny. Level 5 now. It has a decent amount of damage, may be able to insta-give like a IO, especially an IO right now at half HP, but yeah, I don't really know if this Tiny's Avalanche Toss combo is going to be super relevant in this game unless he magically finds a Blink Dagger. I don't really think that's going to happen anytime soon. He's trying to farm up against a Necrophos, and that hurts like hell. Like, just by sitting in the lane with the Heartstopper aura, he's slowly taking damage. Over towards bottom lane to get the Hex on the EGM. Here comes a relocate. Crushes there as well. Do they have enough damage to kill off the Spirit Breaker? He's very tanky. He's going to charge through everyone. Go now straight for the Lion, and he needs a bash if he's going to get the kill, and he gets a bash. He will get the kill, and they will lose Winter Wyvern, but they gain 2 in exchange. Bone 7 kind of weak now. Here comes Pycat. He doesn't have enough mana, but he does have Flame Guard up this time. Time lapse out from LMAO does still have the double damage. He's going to pick off Cancel as well. It's a 4 kill for 4 Clovers, trading only their 2 supports for it. Pycat and LMFAO grabbing huge amounts of gold off of that one.
Yeah, it's great for Pycat to having to rotate in there. Helps him out quite a bit, it feels, at this point. And now it's level 8, just below the Necrophos, who's free farming, and his lane mate. Top lane, they are going to catch the toss on top of LMAO with the DD still ticking away, and the Avalanche is there, and they find the Necrophos, who is certainly the highest valued target onto Kaipi at this point. So that's a very nice kill going their way. 425 experience apiece, and 500 gold split between those two.
This Necrophos is also not a super easy target. Like, he is a generally soft hero, especially in the early stages of the game, but with the casual cloak, Tiny's combo not doing full damage, point booster also. You mean that he has like probably like 800-ish HP, maybe even 900 charge towards bottom lane. Bone 7 is going to get the perfect crush off. Now get the Amplify onto Pycat. TP support is coming in, but not nearly quick enough to catch up to an Ember Spirit. He's going to Amplify now EGM. Has another crush. It's going to land. EGM has a charge in 2 seconds. Boofy is going to arrive with the disables. Spirit Breaker going to fall for the 4th time now. And they just try a little bit too much, I think, to grab the Slardar, who is, you know, again, pretty difficult to kill off, especially when he has backup coming. So kills being traded once again, but it seems like we may be on the aggressive kill train. Sexy Bambo, he really wants to go towards cancel right now, depending on what rune he gets. Haste, Invis, all good. Illusion, ugh, that's not what you want.
Definitely so. Pycat going to be able to pick up the bounty rune bot lane, so can be able to complete up treads or phase boots, whichever he opts for here, but still feels a little bit underfarmed on this Ember Spirit. No stacks, really. I mean, just the one double stack large camp here for Pycat to farm. So it feels like he's going to need a little bit of time to recover. TPs are inbound bot lane. Hex is going to catch out the charge from EGM. And looks like everyone's going to back off. Avalanche only going to catch Bone 7 here. Swarm flies through a few, but Finger of Death is going to blow up the Tiny. And now Cancel rotating in as well is going to force LMAO the heck out of dodge. Nico going to jump in with the Splinter Blast and the Arctic Burn. And it's going to do quite a bit of damage to Cancel, but the Wisp is behind him. No bottle charges, however, on to Come With Me, and it's going to force Kaipi back for now, but they do pick off that Tiny free and clean.
Yeah, it could have been a little bit worse there for 4 Clovers, as the Spirit Breaker charge into a Lion, never really going to happen. They were spotted by that one also, like if you have perfect Fog of War angles, maybe you get that charge to connect, but other than that, it's just never ever going to land. And Tiny, well, I guess he's now level 7, so his Avatos combo does do quite a bit of damage, but still with like no armor at all. He's just gonna get absolutely annihilated by the amplified damage of Slardar. Shadow Fiend now level 9, which, you know, isn't really a huge level as far as right click damage is concerned, but soon enough he'll have presence of the Dark Lord, so this Tiny's low armor going to be even lower, and he's just not getting any farm, so the chances of seeing him grab that was a missed crush on the bottom lane, completely missed the creeps. Seeing him grab any sort of armor item like is so low right now. Like, even a Ring of Basilius would help his survivability so much, but he doesn't really want to spend that gold because he wants the Blink Dagger, yet he can't get the Blink Dagger if he keeps on dying like this.
Yeah, it feels like the value certainly outweighs stifling any item progression that he would gain without picking it up. But he's going to pick up Phase Boots for now and can toss in a couple of targets that will maybe keep the heroes locked down, with Ember Spirit and the Spirit Breaker being the 2 most notable. But the Winter's Curse is now available for Nikwa, and they are going to find a charge very deep behind enemy lines on to Come With Me. They should be able to get the Avatos off, and it's a dead Wisp coming out here. TPs are inbound, not going to be canceled just yet from the Necrophos. They are going to try and turn this. The other side, they're going to try and pincer them in. Pycat going to be closed onto by Cancel. Bone 7 catches the crush. It's only onto Bambo, though. They're going to try and bring him down with the amp damage and the raise. They will be able to do so, but the Winter's Curse connects onto 2. Searing Chains on the west side onto Buffney as well. Cancel getting low, but the Death Pulse will keep him alive for now. Pycat has a regen rune available, is going to pop it for now. Scythe goes out on the east side, will bring down the Tiny, and now Pycat in a little bit of a perilous situation here, but they have no disable, of course, it only being Jawa. Bone 7 TPs into the tier 1, and the Remnant will be dropped down into the pit. First hit mash not there, but the Requiem channeled up by Cancel. Charge is going to come through, though, and Cancel's kind of all by his lonesome at this point. The relocate comes in, though. Crush from Bone 7. They'll bring down the Wyvern. Cancel is next to fall. Death Requiem doing work. LMAO able to time-lapse it off, but Pycat goes down from it, and LMAO should be able to outrun Kaipi here, but they only lose a Shadow Fiend overall, and in the end it's a 3-for-1 going Kaipi's way.
Well, they lost the IO to start things off, so you know, slightly worse, I suppose, from Kaipi, but that was a dive from 4 Clovers all the way near the tier 2. Like, from this angle, especially having a dire tier 1 up in both the mid and bottom lanes, means that once you get in, you have to like teleport out because you're not going to walk out of there. Jawa did so much damage just by sitting in the middle of the fight with Heartstopper Aura. That in of itself did work, but, you know, landing so many death pulses, ended the fight at literally full HP, full mana, because he ended up getting a Scythe kill there as well with maxed out Sadist, so cashing in that health regen and mana regen also. I mean, for 4 Clovers, that's kind of the gameplay style they're looking for when they have a Tiny and a 3-position Tiny and a Spirit Breaker in the 4 position. They kind of want to be always causing that havoc, but that's just a little bit too deep to go for just an IO kill. I mean, yeah, it's nice that they get the kill, but it's just an IO who already has relocate, so the upside of getting that is not nearly as much as if this IO was like trying to get relocate, or if it was a Slaughter who was at, you know, may say 2100 gold, who really wants to get his Blink Dagger, but he will have that released shortly as well. So just the wrong time for 4Clovers to make that type of play. I don't mind the play if it was on someone else, but it's a little bit too much risk for too little reward. And after all is said and done, Kaipi now have the mechanism in the Shadow Fiend. He was working with just the buckler from before. This Necrophos, I was going to say, like, why doesn't he have any items? He has a Blink Dagger on the Couriers coming out to him right away. Plus they have a Blink Dagger on the Slaughter, so double blinks. And now 4Clovers, this charge initiation style, going to be a lot harder to succeed with.
I was wondering where all of Bisa's gold was, but yeah, Blink Dagger coming out for the Necro is going to be certainly nice for some counter initiation and also the heal available to him. So he's been present really in very few engagements thus far and has been able to find his farm, and now his presence should bode well for them. LMAO, though, is going to go for that aggressive first Desolator build. I really do like this on the Weaver. As long as he's able to keep away from the Lion, he should be more than survivable with the time lapse available. And picking off the backlines is going to be certainly very possible with this Desolator, especially before any Ghost Scepter comes out for Come With Me, which is going to be a while away. One thing concerning, though, for the Radiant side is I feel like Pycat should be a lot more stronger at this point in the game. Only 1,000 gold to him. He does have that level 11, so 4 levels in Flame Guard and Searing Chains will be a good amount of damage, but still feels like at 17 minutes in the game, you want your Ember Spirit to be a little bit more of an intimidating force across the map.
And especially with these Blink Daggers up on the Kaipi side, they can get on top of Pycat and annihilate him in the blink of an eye. Just blink, crush from the Slaughter, allowing the Lion, who may not have that movement speed, to walk in and land the Spike, land the Hex, or just fire off the finger as needed. They could really work around the fact that the Lion is not super mobile, and they could also abuse the fact that LMAO is super soft right now, and 5 damage is there. Hex, and then Spike, and Finger of Death. Well, they don't even need a Spike. They bring in Cancel with the Relocate, but it seems like that was kind of unnecessary. Come With Me probably going to leave the Shadow Fiend over in the mid lane. He's going to run straight into the Tiny. Avalanche Toss combo is there. Also going to slow down Bone 7. They land a really nice curse into Cancel, but he's not taking that much damage here because it's just the Lion, rather, attacking the Shadow Fiend. I was going to relocate back in as Ember Spirit's jumping around all over the screen. They see Nico right now with the amplified damage. He's going to be forced to put himself in the Embrace, but 2 raises is going to put him down immediately afterwards. In the meantime, though, they do kill off Necrophos. That's where they were jumping towards with the Ember Spirit, but that's a small price to pay for Kaipi for getting 2 kills, one of which being the Weaver. They're going to reinitiate right now. Avalanche, Charge going to come in from EGM, but he immediately gets hexed out of it. Spike is there as well, and Bone 7 coming right back in. Blink Crush, amplify damage onto Slaughter. They're looking for both these kills. They'll find the Tiny. They should find EGM as well because Bone 7 is so damn fast, and they will. It's a double kill for Cancel, and ultimately 4 heroes down for 4Clovers. I guess it's fine that the Ember Spirit didn't fall, but that's, again, way too expensive of a trade.
The resolve from Kaipi is really showing in this game. After what had to be a super demoralizing loss in Game 1, their movement has just been almost flawless, despite the laning stage really not being in their favor. And yeah, Pycat still feels like he's not strong enough to kind of join up in these engagements. That was a really nice split of their focus there. They know the charge is used and the Nether Strike from the Spirit Breaker, so they just switch focus over to the Tiny and know that all the Spirit Breaker can do is try and run away at that point with all their heroes in a good amount of HP, and they're able to bring down both heroes for their choice, and they also get the Roshan on top. So things looking really good after a small lead being accrued early on by 4CNL. Both net worth and experience now going in Kaipi's favor.
It just seems like whenever 4Clovers try to make this like aggressive play that they want to make with the Desolator Weaver, the Charge, the Avalanche Toss combo, they just run into a brick wall, whether that's interference from the Lion with his disables, a Slaughter blinking and crushing, or the fact that at this point Kaipi are just a little bit too tanky to kill off. Like, Necrophos is 1,000 plus HP, the Slaughter, same thing, plus the IO always hanging around. Like, these are no longer easy pick-off targets, the exception really being the Lion, but Boufni's positioning, I mean, we said in the last game on the Dazzle was on point, and it's not going to change now that he's playing the Lion. So how do 4Clovers actually get in and get these kills? They were able to pick off the Necrophos, which is nice, but at this point it's not quite good enough. LMFAO, well, he was spotted, I think. He's going to TP out of there. Blink Crush, it's going to land. Can they land a Hex? Oh, Spike from long range is going to land with the right clicks. They'll bring down the Weaver. He unfortunately chose exactly the wrong place to teleport out of there. Observer from the Dire just in range.
Shades of Game 1 there, that Flame Break canceling Bambo's TP Bone Chan. gonna find the TP out from Weaver there, and looking really good thus far in both offlane roles. I mean, he was more or less sacked in the early game here, and all of a sudden has 1,000 gold and a blink dagger on his Slardar. So looking really good overall for Kaipi in really all phases. LMAO kind of the only relevant hero in terms of farm was just brought down, and still not worried about Pycat is this dire side. So things looking very good for them. Swimmingly in this mid game, steady as she goes. Still have 2 tier 1s to bring down though, and Cancel gonna try and rectify that issue already at the top lane, forcing the glyph out. He does have his IO behind him as well, so somewhat of a bait, but at least the defensive relocate available to them.
This is going to get really hard for 4 Clovers to recover into. Like, they, in theory, have good late game heroes, but they just don't have the necessary farm on those heroes to be considered late game, especially this Tiny, who still just does not have enough gold towards that Blink Dagger. And at this point, if you grab your Blink, you can still insta-give the Tiny, the Lion, rather, but everyone else, those kills are just off the table. They are starting to rely more and more now on the Ember Spirit and Weaver, who's actually holding on to, wow, 3,600 on the Ember. I don't think I've ever seen the Ember Spirit hold this much gold. Like, if it's Battle Fury, he would have the swords by now, the Perseverance. Either one would help him a lot more than, you know, the Poor Man's Shield or something around those lines, or maybe even sell it to bring Aquila. Is there any item that he's actually going for that actually costs this much? Oh, mid lane, LFAO gonna try to go for Bone 7, but he's gonna get scythed, put into the ground, 80 seconds on the sideline.
Wow.
Weaver somehow ending up in the tier 1 mid tower range. Charge going now towards cancel. Will be cancelled. And the tower is going to be destroyed down towards bottom lane, but it's not going to be for free, it seems. 4 Clovers, they might lose some more heroes. Bone 7 landing a nice 2-man crush. Now here comes the raises and Jawa's magical damage output as well. EGM's going to charge right on out of there. No scythe to cancel that one. But it's a tower and a kill for the road, and that means they can go for even more tower destruction, as bottom lane tier 2 is not looking that safe.
Yeah, not sure who they thought they could charge into. They have absolutely no damage without the Weaver. I mean, they now have the Blink Dagger on the Bambo Tiny, but 23 minutes in the game, mech, damage reduction from the overcharge, death pulse. I mean, Avalanche toss combo is really not scary at this point. And toss gonna come through on to cancel. Avalanche gonna whiff, but tier 2 gonna be dropped here. Only 2 outer tier towers, and the relocate top lane. They're gonna find out Pycat, and the Ember Spirit will go down for the second time, I should say. It feels like he's died more than that, but second time in this one. 44 seconds on the sideline alongside the Weaver, and Kaipi finding more across the map, finding better kills, finding more farm. Feels like this is just a matter of time before they're able to poke at high ground.
Man, this is looking real bad now for 4 Clovers. The Aghanim Scepter now being up on the Necrophos. I mean, yeah, it's nice to have the buyback denied out, but at this point, the most relevant part of Aghanim Scepter is the fact that it just gives you health. Like, that's all Jawa really wants, because the Death Pulse and the Heartstopper Aura now maxed out, just doing so much work. And of course, it makes the Scythe do that much more damage as well, if that ever becomes relevant in this game. But still, Jawa is damn near impossible to kill off. Plus, he has the Blink Dagger, so if you think you're going to escape with like a Weaver, Shikuchi, while being amplified, suddenly a Scythe is going to land. Not good times. Jawa can steal these kills out of nowhere. And at worst case scenario, just help cancel stay healthy as he does siege the mid lane now. Bone 7 sprinting up the high ground, sees Nikwa, does not know. Oh, he does know where Bambo is, but this time the Tiny has a Blink Dagger out. He'll get out of there. But I don't think 4 Clovers can actually hold this tier 2. Like, it's just not going to happen. They're nowhere in any position to take a fight right now versus Kaipi. They're 7,500 gold and experience behind. Plus, there's still a little bit of Aegis timer. Well, not anymore, but Aegis is going to be reclaimed. And tier 2 tower down, nothing for 4 Clovers. Minor amounts of split push for the Weaver.
Yeah, what do you do in the meantime is the real question. And that feeling when you kind of want a statsman because the Wisp has a Sange on the courier. And probably going to be a Halberd coming out for the Weaver. Doesn't feel like they have anything to deal with that, or will anytime soon for that matter. So, yeah, luxury pickups galore coming out for Kaipi, and Charge going to be queued up top lane. They definitely don't have the follow-up, and EGM going to cancel that up. Lifesteal as well as the mech on the Shadow Fiend on top of the damage reduction. Hitting pretty hard with the S and Y. Doesn't feel like cancel is really killable at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just the Shadow Fiend without IO is damn near impossible to kill off at this point. With an IO, with full bottle charges, with earn charges, makes it even more difficult. Yeah, Halberd for really anyone at this stage. Obviously, you want to put it on the Weaver, but hell, even on the Tiny, even on the Ember Spirit, or even the Spirit Breaker, once he charges in and gets disarmed immediately afterwards. Come With Me is invis. Doesn't look like it, but he's going to see everyone going to walk right into a sentry. Avatos combo is there. He's going to actually tether away and survive. That's Sanj, man, making the difference right now. Bone 7's going to jump right in. 2-man crush. He's going to amplify up EGM. Just going to die in 3 hits, but Cancel gets interrupted out of his 3rd with the Winter's Curse. But that is a bad Winter's Curse, just trying to disengage. Can they chase forward for anything else? Bone 7 going to force staff forward. They still see EGM. He's going to get Scythe. That won't be lethal damage, but it still will get the kill in the end. Now they're going to make a short relocate jump forward. Nikwa, tracked by the bug and the amplified damage, is going to try to fly away, but he doesn't have a TP yet, so how is he going to get out of here? He's stuck on the cliff side, and Cancel has the raises. Does he have an angle for it? Well, I'm pretty sure Nikwa is just screwed right now. In the meantime, they're chasing after the Weaver, who's actually still in this fight, trying to go for come with me. And LMFAO is going to run the right direction. Nikwa is going to fly down to the low ground, now fighting 1v1 versus the Lion. Eventually, the Lion should be able to get this kill. Right clicks? Yeah, there it is. Lion right clicks too strong. Looks like LMFAO is going to, in the end, escape, but for 4 Clovers, they don't gain anything off of that.
Yeah, they find no trades. They're not split pushing. They're not really farming on any of their cores. Even Pycat had to rotate in just for a Sleight of Fist Searing Chains to keep that bay. The Wisp and the Shadow Fiend. Unfortunately, that short relocate left Bone 7 in the trees, so he wasn't able to chase forward. But they still find the kill on the Wyverns. They'll get that early kill as well. And the Winter's Curse, yeah, super defensively natured. They show you that 4CNL are aware of how hard Cancel is to kill. They don't commit at all on that Winter's Curse. And, of course, there were no other heroes caught in it, so that's another reason that was less appealing. But feels like they know, really, the potency of the opposite lineup, especially relative to theirs.
Well, they do get a courier snipe. Weaver was able to snag that one. Didn't have really anything substantial on it. A TP scroll. No one cares about that. Cancel can buy all the TP scrolls he wants right now. Right before the courier died, it delivered the plate mail to Necrophos, so he died a couple times this game, but it doesn't look like Jawa's going to be an easy kill really ever anymore in this game. It is worth noting that Kaipi had a similar lead in the last game and ended up kind of throwing that away, so it's not impossible to see 4 Clovers come back from this 7,500, 10k disadvantage and golden experience respectively. But up against the heroes now from Kaipi, it just seems like it's a lot more difficult for them to lose this advantage. Like, at this point, Slaughter's going for full utility, but he can, casually grab an Assault Craft, something like that, and suddenly be an absolute monster in these fights. Necrophos late game is absolutely no joke. Same thing with the Shadow Fiend. And 4 Clovers, again, they have the heroes, I guess, necessary, but they're just not getting the farm that they need. And also, EGM is stuck right now. And spotted by Bone 7. Again, the Observer in the perfect position. He's going to try and TP out, but he's spotted. They can crush from the low ground. Here comes the Tiny. He's going to chuck up Boofney right now. Do so much damage. It will kill out the Lion. Bone 7, he's going to get crushed down as well. Here comes the Relocate in. It's going to be a Requiem canceled by EGM. Nether Strike canceled. Now going to charge forward. Jawa looking for someone to Reaper Scythe, but he can't quite get in range. They're still into Pycat, doing so much physical damage. He needs a couple more right clicks. He's going to jump away. Toss out onto EGM. Not going to do it. Jawa's going to close in. Scythe not going to be there. No, he's going to get the kill anyway, though, with the Death Pulse. Now he's looking for a Scythe onto EGM. Gets tossed up, so he still can't get it. But I'm sure he's going to kill off someone with this one. It's going to be the Tiny. Jawa grabs a double kill. MFL going to try to snipe the Weaver in the meantime. Does get the hit with the help of Pycat. Now Jawa is all alone, although he does a cancel coming around from the corner, going to go straight for Nikwa. That's going to be a double kill for cancel. Time lapse in from LMFAO. Gem on the deck. They can't quite pick it up in time to see the Weaver, however. Pycat and LMFAO going to try to retreat, and they will get out of there. A remarkable fight, all things considered, for 4 Clovers, and they're thinking about going back in. That's a 3 for 3. For a team that's this far behind is huge. Boofney, blind spike, almost hitting onto this Weaver. But they now do see him. Hex available, Finger of Death also. He's on the run. Did the gem got picked up by Cancel, but LMFAO, he's going to run straight into the Slardar. There's a crush. He's still stunned. He's still there. Blind spike, and the right clicks. There it is. Weaver finally down. Still, it's the best trade that 4 Clovers could have possibly hoped for, though it is still one that's slightly better for KP.
They do buy back on the Ember Spirit as well there, so... I think the Weaver kill kind of, still tips it in Kaipi's favor, but yeah, pretty miraculous nonetheless, all things considered. 22 seconds on the sideline with that Aghanim Scythe, though, for the Tiny means with the amp damage and the presence of the Dark Lord, very easy Roshan going Kaipi's way. So overall, it's still going to be a big tip in their favor, even though it seemed like that was probably the best scenario they could get. What a bait by EGM on the high ground. And they get a big relocate in, or a big jump in with the Ember Spirit onto the IO Slardar and bring them down early. But yeah, still going to be an Aegis going the Shadow Fiend's way. And if you felt like Cancel was unkillable, put an Aegis and a Reaver on him now and see how you feel.
Maybe a little bit of a low damage output built from the Shadow Fiend, but as long as he hangs around this IO with the overcharge, he's going to be attacking very quickly. And you could easily grab like a Butterfly or an MKB or Daedalus after this and then just be an absolute monster, unkillable monster at that. Still, the fight is the worst one that Kaipi have found so far, but they're still going to get some pretty heavy items afterwards. Heaven's Halberd now up on the IO, so disarming the Weaver. It's going to work for a little while, though. LMFAO is going to go for the BKB, so we can, in theory, get rid of that. Still, this is going to be a big item being picked up on a hero that usually doesn't have anything, and really there are no similar items on the 4 Clover side. I guess the Glimmer Cape and Winter Wyvern is decent as a start, but Spirit Breaker, having gone for Perseverance, is looking to go for a Lotus, actually. That's actually a pretty good item to have versus the Kaipi side, but he's still not quite there yet.
Yeah, he's been building that for a very long time as well, so Spirit Breaker has been starved out quite a bit for EGM, and now looks like they'll finally poke at high ground with this Aegis advantage. I feel like the big key difference in the lead that Kaipi has in this game over the last game is that the split push presence was a lot more real from 4CL in the first one, and in this one it's not nearly as intimidating. Cancel going to jump up towards the high ground, and a forward crush there from Bone 7, but they're not going to follow it up just yet. Hex there onto EGM. Finger of Death comes out onto the Wyvern. Curse. Not going to be enough to kill off Bone 7. Death Pulse going to keep him alive for now. Cancel just standing in the front lines. Jump forward. Crush onto 2 once again. Cold Embrace. Going to keep Bamboo up, but Cancel just right-clicking away at the structure. Scythe will be there to bring down the Tiny. 80 seconds on the sideline. Deleted from the game. And the first lane of Rax is going to be in a lot of trouble, if not dead, very soon.
I'm so surprised that Boofney is still alive right now. Like, he jumped in so deep as a Lion with not much backup available to him, and he's still surviving in these trees with the Blink Dagger available to either initiate or leave. Cancel really has his eyes on the prize. Gotta hand it to Kaipi. They know what they want, and they're damn sure gonna get it. They kill off the Raxes. They make sure that there is no Tiny for a minute, and they're gonna slide over towards mid lane, it seems. There are no creeps here, but Cancel with the Satanic and Io right behind him. There's no more Urn charges, but should have enough regeneration to keep Cancel swinging at these towers. And if he dies, so what? He has an Aegis. Also, Jawa's here to heal him up. LMFAO is going to do what he can versus the Shadow Fiend, but they're going to get yanked all the way back to the fountain, and they will be fine. Kaipi still ready to initiate if needed. Bone 7 has the gem, so he can initiate even on the Weaver. It seems like they're probably not going to find an angle here, although Jawa's going to look for the Shiva's Guard bottom lane. Bone 7 is going to charge in. Weaver is amplified up right now, but they have to go right now for Clovers. They still don't have their Tiny available. By the time he's up, there's another Scythe here from Jawa, so someone else may just suffer a similar fate. Aegis is going to be reclaimed soon enough, but the tower's already dropped. No creeps, no problem. Bone 7 looking for initiation in. He's not going to find it. There it is, 2-man crush. It's just going to stall them out, getting Cancel with more free space. Now Scythe on MLFAO will do next to no damage. Cancel going to get hit with the bash as they do jump in with the Tiny. Kill off the Io and curse up Jawa at the same time. Nice 2-man play from Boofney in the backside as Bone 7 going to prep a 2-man crush. There it is, bashing Tiny as well, going to get 2 kills for the team. And Cancel still at full HP, hasn't even used the Satanic yet. That's GG.
Yeah, still have the Aegis as well, so probably the best scenario they could get in terms of initiation for 4CNL, but yeah, too much of an advantage accrued here items-wise and strength-wise in terms of levels for their heroes, so Kaipi really well played in this game too, didn't even feel close really at any point during the game, so they get too much for their Slardar despite a bad lane for him, and the Tiny gets absolutely nothing pretty much all game long. 2, 7, and 5 on Bambo, and you can't say it really was the fault of his play. Just the laning configuration was so disadvantageous for him. 300 XPM, 293 GPM on your Tiny is not where you want to be, and that's kind of virtues of Bone 7's draft. They're cornering 4CNL into picking up that Tiny early.
Yeah, if you're gonna get the Tiny, you really want to have the ability to play aggressively, and they did have, I guess, the correct heroes in theory, but EGM, Spirit Breaker, unable to actually get as many kills as they really needed to bring Tiny into relevance by the time they needed him. Killing off Necrophos, it happened like once, and that's just not good enough. So Kaipi are going to tie it up 1-1. That means that both of these two teams are going to receive 1 point after all is said and done. We're late for the next game, but fortunately 4 Clovers are in the next game, so there's no way that it can start without us. It's going to be 4 Clovers, this time going to face up against Goomba Gaming. It's going to be an interesting match there, maybe a little bit easier than Kaipi, but still Goomba, they typically pull out some pretty deep surprises when people least expect it. So that's going to be coming up ASAP, guys. I'm Mikelorus. I've been joined by mrpdota. If you enjoyed the games, be sure to stick around because clearly we're not done yet. 4 Clovers have a doubleheader ahead of them. Follow us on Twitter at Mikelorus, at mrpdota. We'll be right back with the next match, 4 Clovers versus Goomba.